There was a time when power belonged to the strongest person in the room. Later, it belonged to the wealthiest. Then it shifted to those who controlled information. But today, we're entering a completely different era. Artificial intelligence is rewriting the rules of success, replacing skills that once guaranteed job security, generating ideas in seconds that once took experts years to develop, and forcing millions of people to ask one terrifying question: if AI can do what I do, what makes me valuable? While most people are focused on learning new technology, very few realize the real battle isn't between humans and machines. It's between ordinary people and those who understand human nature. Because no matter how intelligent AI becomes, it cannot replace one ability that has determined power throughout history, with the ability to understand people. Robert Greene has spent decades studying kings, politicians, generals, entrepreneurs, and master manipulators. And one lesson appears again and again. The greatest threat to your future isn't always the person with more talent. Often, it's the person who understands psychology better than you do. And among all the personalities Greene warns us about, none are more dangerous than the narcissist. They don't always arrive with arrogance or obvious cruelty. The most dangerous narcissists rarely announce themselves. They arrive with charm, confidence, charisma. They make you feel seen, understood, even special. But beneath that polished exterior often lies an obsession that has nothing to do with love, friendship, or loyalty. Their greatest priority is themselves. Every conversation, every compliment, every favor, and every relationship quietly revolves around protecting their own image and feeding their endless need for admiration. The frightening part is that many people never realize they've been manipulated until years later, when their confidence has slowly disappeared and their identity has become dependent on someone else's approval. This is why understanding narcissism has become more important than ever before. In an age where social media rewards attention, algorithms reward self-promotion, and AI allows anyone to manufacture influence overnight, appearances have become incredibly convincing. It has never been easier to look successful without being successful. It has never been easier to appear authentic without actually being authentic. And because technology amplifies appearance, learning to see beyond appearances has become one of the most valuable skills you can possess. Robert Greene often reminds us that people reveal themselves through patterns, not performances. Anyone can pretend for a day, many can pretend for a year, but very few can hide their true nature forever. The problem is that most people don't study patterns, they study words. They believe promises instead of observing behavior. They trust confidence instead of consistency. They mistake charm for character. Narcissists understand this weakness better than almost anyone. They know people desperately want to believe attractive stories. They know compliments lower defenses. They know confidence is often mistaken for competence. And they quietly use those tendencies to position themselves exactly where they want to be. But here's the paradox. While millions of people are worried about AI replacing their careers, the individuals who will remain truly irreplaceable aren't necessarily the smartest or the most technical. They're the ones who understand people better than anyone else. Machines may automate tasks, but they cannot replace wisdom, judgment, emotional intelligence, trust, leadership, or the ability to recognize deception hidden behind confidence. Those qualities are becoming more valuable, not less. The future will not belong to the people who simply know how to use AI. It will belong to those who know how to lead people while everyone else is distracted by technology. That's why this conversation isn't really about narcissists. It's about power. It's about learning to recognize manipulation before it controls your decisions. It's about protecting your mind. In a world where influence has become easier to manufacture than ever before. And most importantly, it's about discovering the one quality that no machine, no narcissist, and no competitor can ever take from you if you learn to develop it before it's too late. One of the biggest mistakes people make is believing narcissists are easy to identify. They imagine someone who is loud, arrogant, selfish, and openly obsessed with themselves. But Robert Greene explains that the most dangerous manipulators rarely fit that stereotype. In fact, the most effective narcissists often appear generous, charming, intelligent, and deeply interested in your life. They know exactly what people long to hear because they spend far more time studying others than others spend studying them. Their goal isn't simply to impress you. Their goal is to understand your emotional needs well enough to make themselves appear indispensable. That's where their true power begins. Every person has emotional blind spots. Some crave validation, others crave acceptance. Some desperately want to feel understood, while others fear being abandoned. Narcissists quietly search for these emotional openings because they know that once they discover what you're missing, internally, they can position themselves as the solution. At first, it feels incredible. They seem to understand you better than anyone else. They praise your strengths. They mirror your opinions. They share your interests. They make every conversation feel effortless. Without realizing it, you begin lowering your guard because your brain mistakes familiarity for trust. Robert Greene repeatedly warns that people become vulnerable not because they lack intelligence, but because they confuse emotional comfort with genuine character. This is one of the oldest psychological traps in history. The moment someone consistently tells you exactly what you want to hear, your critical thinking quietly begins shutting down. You stop observing behavior because you're too busy enjoying the feeling they create. But feelings can be manufactured. Character cannot. That's why the first stage of manipulation almost never looks like manipulation. It looks like connection. Then something subtle begins to change. The compliments become expectations. The support becomes control. The attention becomes dependency. Without noticing, your confidence slowly shifts from being internally generated to externally supplied. You begin checking whether they're happy with you before making decisions. You explain yourself more often. You seek their approval more frequently. And the most dangerous part is that this transformation happens gradually, enough that you barely notice it. Robert Greene often reminds us that real power is rarely taken by force. It's surrendered in small pieces. One compromise today, one ignored red flag tomorrow, one excuse after another, until you no longer recognize the person you've become. This is exactly why narcissists are so effective. They understand that controlling someone's emotions is far more powerful than controlling their actions. Once they influence how you feel about yourself, your decisions naturally begin serving their interests instead of your own. Yet the rise of artificial intelligence has created an entirely new dimension to this problem. Today, influence can be manufactured faster than ever before. AI can write persuasive messages, generate flawless images, create convincing voices, and build perfect online identities within minutes. People can now fake confidence, expertise, success, and even authenticity at a scale that was unimaginable only a few years ago. This means the future belongs to those who can separate performance from reality. The ability to read human behavior is becoming more valuable than the ability to consume information. Anyone can generate content. Far fewer can recognize hidden motives. Anyone can appear impressive online. Very few remain impressive once you observe them over time. That's why Robert Greene places such enormous importance on patience. Time exposes what appearances hide. Narcissists may maintain a flawless image for weeks or months, but eventually the mask begins to slip. Patterns emerge. Contradictions appear. Empathy disappears whenever it no longer serves their interests. The question is whether you'll notice those patterns before you've already become emotionally invested. Because once emotions become involved, even the smartest people begin defending the very individuals who are quietly manipulating them. And that's exactly why the next principle may be the most important lesson Robert Greene ever teaches. If you want to remain irreplaceable in an age dominated by AI and manipulation, you must first become impossible to psychologically control as artificial intelligence becomes more powerful. Millions of people are asking the wrong question. They ask, what skills should I learn before AI replaces my job? But Robert Greene would encourage you to ask something far more important. What can no machine ever replace? The answer isn't simply creativity, intelligence, or technical ability. AI is becoming increasingly capable in all of those areas. The one quality that continues growing in value is human judgment. Judgment is the ability to read people beyond their words, recognize hidden intentions, make wise decisions under uncertainty, and understand emotions that no algorithm can fully calculate. Throughout history, power has always belonged to those who understood people better than people understood themselves. Kings employed advisors not because they lacked information, but because they needed judgment. Great generals won wars not because they had more soldiers, but because they understood psychology. Successful entrepreneurs rarely build lasting companies through intelligence alone. They build them by understanding trust, influence, timing, negotiation, and leadership. These are deeply human abilities, and Robert Greene argues they become even more valuable as technology advances. Ironically, the more the world relies on machines for answers, the more valuable independent thinking becomes. Yet this is exactly where narcissists gain their greatest advantage. They don't want you thinking independently. They want you reacting emotionally. Emotional people are predictable. Predictable people are easy to influence. That's why narcissists constantly create emotional highs and emotional lows. One moment they shower you with praise. The next they withdraw approval without explanation. One day you're made to feel exceptional. The next, you're left questioning your own worth. This cycle isn't random. It's psychological conditioning. Over time, your brain begins chasing their approval the same way it chases any unpredictable reward. Without realizing it, you're no longer making clear decisions. You've become emotionally dependent on someone else's reactions. Robert Greene repeatedly warns that the greatest prison isn't built with walls. It's built inside the mind. The moment another person's opinion determines your confidence, they've gained influence over your future. This is why self-awareness is becoming one of the most valuable forms of power in the modern world. AI can analyze data. It can generate content. It can predict patterns, but it cannot develop genuine character for you. It cannot build emotional resilience. It cannot teach wisdom earned through painful experience. Those qualities must be developed through deliberate effort. And perhaps that's why the future won't belong to those who merely know how to use technology. It will belong to those who have mastered themselves before, attempting to master anything else. Imagine two people entering the same room. Both have access to the same AI tools, the same information, and the same opportunities. One desperately seeks approval, reacts emotionally to criticism, trusts charming words without observing behavior, and constantly compares themselves to everyone around them. The other remains calm under pressure, studies patterns instead of promises, thinks independently, and protects their emotional energy with discipline. Which one do you believe will be harder to manipulate? Which one will naturally become a better leader? Which one will remain valuable no matter how much technology changes? The answer has very little to do with artificial intelligence. It has everything to do with emotional intelligence. That's the hidden lesson Robert Greene has been teaching all along. The greatest form of power is never external. It begins with mastering the person staring back at you in the mirror. And once you've achieved that, something remarkable begins to happen. You stop fearing narcissists because you can finally recognize them long before they ever gain access to your mind. But recognizing them is only half the battle, because the truly irreplaceable people follow a completely different set of principles that quietly separate them from everyone else. Every generation produces people who become impossible to replace, not because they're the smartest, not because they're the richest, and certainly not because they're the most talented. Robert Greene would argue that what truly separates them is something much deeper. They refuse to become psychologically dependent on anything outside themselves. While everyone else is chasing attention, they're building value. While everyone else is trying to impress, they're trying to improve. And while everyone else is reacting emotionally, they're quietly observing. This is why narcissists often fail to control truly powerful individuals. Narcissists depend on emotional reactions. They need admiration to feed their ego. They need insecurity to maintain influence. They need people who constantly seek approval, because those are the easiest minds to control. But what happens when they encounter someone who already knows their own worth? Suddenly, the manipulation stops working. Guilt no longer changes their decisions. Flattery no longer blinds their judgment. Criticism no longer destroys their confidence. That kind of emotional stability feels almost impossible to manipulate because it has been built from within instead of borrowed from other people. Robert Greene repeatedly emphasizes that your greatest source of power is your ability to remain centered while everyone else loses control. Think about how most conflicts unfold. One person says something offensive. The other immediately reacts. Voices become louder. Emotions become stronger. Logic disappears. Before long, both people are fighting battles that neither of them fully understands. But the individual who remains calm instantly changes the balance of power. They observe while others expose themselves. They listen while others reveal their insecurities. They remain patient while others make impulsive mistakes. In many ways, silence becomes more informative than speech. The less emotionally reactive you become, the more clearly you begin seeing everyone around you. This is where artificial intelligence creates another fascinating contrast. AI is becoming incredibly effective at producing answers, but human beings are becoming less patient with asking better questions. We're flooded with information yet starving for wisdom. We can generate endless content within seconds, yet many people struggle to distinguish confidence from competence, popularity from credibility, or influence from integrity. Robert Greene understood that appearances have always been deceptive. AI has simply accelerated the speed at which those appearances can be manufactured. Today, almost anyone can create the image of success. They can generate luxury lifestyles, polished speeches, perfect business advice, flawless social media profiles, and even artificial relationships. But image alone never creates lasting influence. Reality always wins in the long run. Eventually, people reveal themselves through consistency, or the lack of it. That's why the truly irreplaceable person focuses less on managing appearances and more on developing substance. They build skills that technology can amplify but never replace. They strengthen judgment instead of chasing endless information. They cultivate emotional intelligence while others compete for digital attention. They invest in character because character survives every technological revolution. Machines may outperform humans in speed, memory, and efficiency, but they cannot replace integrity, wisdom, courage, trustworthiness, or genuine leadership. Those qualities remain entirely human. And perhaps that's the greatest opportunity hidden inside the AI revolution. As technology makes ordinary skills more common, extraordinary character becomes increasingly rare. The people who combine technological intelligence with emotional intelligence will become the leaders everyone else depends upon. They won't simply know how machines think. They'll understand how people think, and that combination will make them nearly impossible to replace. But there is one final lesson that ties everything together, a principle so powerful that once you understand it, you'll stop worrying about narcissists, stop fearing AI, and start focusing on the one form of power that no person and no technology can ever take away. At the end of the day, the greatest mistake people make is believing that power comes from controlling others. They spend years trying to become more persuasive, more influential, more respected, and more admired. They study strategies to outsmart narcissists, dominate conversations, and stay ahead of competitors. But Robert Greene arrives at a completely different conclusion. The highest form of power has never been controlling other people. It has always been mastering yourself so completely that no one else can control you. That single realization changes everything. The moment your confidence no longer depends on compliments, narcissists lose one of their strongest weapons. The moment your identity no longer depends on your career, AI loses its power to frighten you. The moment your happiness no longer depends on external validation, the opinions of strangers become nothing more than background noise. This is the kind of freedom history's greatest leaders quietly possessed. They weren't fearless because life had been easy. They became fearless because they stopped allowing circumstances to define who they were. Robert Greene repeatedly reminds us that true influence begins with self-command. If you cannot master your own emotions, someone else eventually will. If you cannot direct your own attention, someone else will profit from distracting it. And if you cannot define your own value, the world will happily define it for you. That's why the future belongs to those who invest less time building an image and more time building substance. Every hour spent developing judgment is an investment no machine can replace. Every difficult conversation, handled with emotional intelligence, strengthens your leadership. Every painful experience transformed into wisdom makes you more valuable than someone who has simply accumulated information. Information is everywhere. Wisdom is rare. Technology is becoming abundant. Character is becoming scarce. And scarcity has always created value. Imagine two professionals living 10 years from now. One spent the decade learning every new AI tool, but never developed patience, emotional intelligence, leadership, or critical thinking. The other learned technology as well, but spent equal time studying psychology, communication, negotiation, resilience, and human nature. Which one do you think people will trust when the stakes are highest? Which one will lead teams through uncertainty? Which one will inspire confidence? When machines can perform most technical tasks equally well, the answer has very little to do with artificial intelligence. It has everything to do with being deeply human. That is the advantage no algorithm can replicate. Robert Greene's greatest lesson has never been about manipulating people. It's about understanding them without becoming controlled by them. Once you learn to recognize narcissists, you stop fearing their charm. Once you understand power, you stop chasing status. And once you master yourself, you become something extraordinarily rare in the modern world. AI to a person whose value cannot be copied, automated, or replaced. That is what it truly means to remain irreplaceable in the age of AI. It isn't your job title. It isn't your followers. It isn't even your intelligence. It's your judgment, your character, your emotional discipline, and your ability to remain unmistakably human while the rest of the world becomes increasingly artificial. And perhaps that's the greatest paradox. Robert Greene wants us to understand. The more technology advances, the more valuable genuine human wisdom becomes.